This is a read aloud of the 804 unit test. Read the passage. As Nagendra traveled downriver by boat, a fierce storm drove him to shore. While looking for shelter from the lashing rain, he came upon a dilapidated house, where he found a girl of 13, Kunda Nandini, and her dying father. Unable to locate Kunda's aunt in Calcutta, Nagendra wrote to his wife Surjamukhi for assistance. Excerpts from Of Many Subjects and Tara Sharan in the Poison Tree, A Tale of Hindu Life in Bengal, by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. Surjamukhi's reply to Nagendra's letter came in a few days. It was after this manner. In picking up a little girl, have you forgotten me? Many unripe things are esteemed. People like green guavas and green cucumbers, green cocoa nuts are cooling. This low-born female is also, I think, very young. Else, in meeting with her, why should you forget me? Joking apart, have you given up all right over this girl? If not, I beg her from you. It is my business to arrange for her. In whatever becomes yours, I have the right to share. But in this case, I see your sister has entire possession. Still, I shall not vex myself much if Kamal usurps my rights. Do you ask, what do I want with this girl? I wish to give her in marriage with Tara Sharan. You know how much I have sought for a suitable wife for him. If Providence has sent us a good girl, do not disappoint me. If Kamal will give her up, bring Kunda Nandini with you when you come. I have written to Kamal, also recommending this. I am having ornaments fashioned and am making other preparations for the marriage. Do not linger in Calcutta. It is not true that if a man stays 6 months in that city, he becomes quite stupid. If you design to marry Kunda, bring her with you, and I will give her to you. Only say that you propose to marry her, and I will arrange the marriage basket. Who Tara Sharan will be explained later. Whoever he was, both Nagendra and Kamal Mani consented to Surjamukhi's proposal. Therefore it was resolved that when Nagendra went home, Kunda Nandini should accompany him. Everyone consented with delight, and Kamal also prepared some ornaments. Surjamukhi's father's house was Konajar. Her father was Kastha, of good position. He was cashier in some house at Calcutta. Surjamukhi was his only child. In her fancy, a Kashta widow named Srimati lived in her father's house as a servant and looked after Surjamukhi. Srimati had one child named Tara Sharan, of the same age as Surjamukhi. With him Surjamukhi had played, and on account of his childish association, she felt towards him the affection of a sister. Srimati was a beautiful woman, and therefore soon fell into trouble. A wealthy man of the village, of evil character, having cast his eyes upon her, she forsook the house of Surjamukhi's father. Whither she went no one exactly knew, but she did not return. Tara Sharan, forsaken by his mother, remained in the house of Surjamukhi's father, who was a very kind-hearted man, and brought up this deserted boy as his own child, not keeping him in slavery as an unpaid servant, but having him taught to read and write. Tara Sharan learned English at a free mission school. Afterwards, Surjamukhi was married, and some years later her father died. By this time Tara Sharan had learned English after a clumsy fashion, but he was not qualified for any business. Rendered homeless by the death of Surjamukhi's father, he went to her house. At her instigation, Nagendra opened a school in the village, and Tara Sharan was appointed master. Nowadays, by means of the grant and aid system in many villages, sleek-haired, song-singing, harmless Master Babis appear. But at that time such a being as a Master Babu was scarcely to be seen. Consequently, Tara Sharan appeared as one of the village gods. Especially it was known in the bazaar that he had read The Citizens of the World, The Spectator, and 3 books of Euclid. On accent of these gifts, he was received into the Brahmo Samaj of Debendra Babu, the Zemindar of Debipur, and reckoned as one of that Babu's retinue. Tara Sharon wrote many essays on widow marriage, on the education of women, and against idol worship. Read them weekly in the Samaj, and delivered many discourses, beginning with, O most merciful God. Some of these he took from the Tattva Bodhini, and some he caused to be written for him by the school pandit. He was forever preaching. Abandon idol worship. Give choice in marriage. Give women education. Why do you keep them shut up in a cage? Let women out. Come out. There was a special cause for this liberality on the subject of women, inasmuch as in his own house there was no woman. Up to this time he had not married. Surjamukhi had made great efforts to get him married, but as his mother's story was known in Govindpur, no respectable Kaistha consented to give him his daughter. Many a common, disreputable Kaisha girl he might have had, but Surjamukhi, regarding Tara Sharan as a brother, would not give her consent, since she did not choose to call such a girl sister-in-law. While she was seeking for a respectable Kaistha girl, Jajandra's letter came, describing Kunda Nandini's gifts and beauty. She resolved to give her to Tara Sharan in marriage. Question 1. How does the information about the characters and their families reflect culture? A. The focus on class emphasizes the importance of social hierarchy in Indian culture. B. The explanation of family relationships makes clear each character's role in society. C. Surja's letter to her husband provides an example of a typical relationship in arranged marriage. Question 2. How does Surja's culture affect the way she approaches marriage? A. Tara's liberal beliefs make him an undesirable husband. Surja knows she will have to look outside of their town for a suitable bride. B. Since social class is important, Surja is determined to find Tara a respectable wife of the same class. C. Since compatibility is important, Surja decides it's important that Tara marry someone who speaks English and shares his ideas. Question 3. Based on this excerpt, how does Indian society view education? A. A well-educated person is important and valued. B. Education is only for the wealthy. The lower classes have no use for it. C. Anyone who learns to speak English is considered God. Question 4. Which sentence best describes the theme of the poison tree? A. Beauty can be dangerous if not guarded and protected. B. Giving help and kindness to others is better than receiving it. C. Family and reputation must be protected at all costs. Question 5. Which statement best explains how alliterative phrase, green guavas and green cucumbers, green cocoa nuts are cooling, in paragraph 2 affects the meaning of Surja's letter? A. It emphasizes Kunda's youth in a light-hearted way. B. It helps the reader see how Surja feels about Kunda. C. It gives the reader a visualization of things people like. Question 6. How does the point of view affect this story? A. It reveals the history of the characters, their motivations, and cultural customs that affects the characters' choices and actions. B. It creates tension, which leaves the readers in suspense as to what will happen to the young girl. C. It allows the reader to see one character's emotions and motivations, so other characters are only known through dialogue and actions. Question 7. Which statement best explains how culture affects Surja's response to Nagendra? A. She is concerned with the suitability of Kunda for Tara. B. She is worried about bringing a new girl into the house. C. She is respectful and deferential to her husband. Question 8. Which statement most effectively conveys how cultural viewpoint affects the text? A. It shapes the notion that marriages are made based on love. B. It shapes the fact that Kunda needs a place to live. C. It shapes the point that Tara Sharan needs a proper mate. Question 9. Which statement best explains how Srimati develops the theme that beauty without guidance and morality can bring ruin? A. Srimati set Tara on a path of loneliness by leaving him with Surjamukhi's family. B. Srimati disappeared after a wealthy and evil man took advantage of her. See, Sharmati took advantage of the kindness Surjamuki's family showed her.